Hello everyone, my name is Brian. Happy Friday. I am the product manager of LaunchBox and welcome to another theme workshop. It is a wonderful Friday because I can come and hang out with you guys. Lex, Edward, Christian, how are you guys doing today? This is where we can all come together, hang out, talk about nostalgic things, talk about LaunchBox and Big Box themes, and it's where you can ask any question that you want, and I'll do my best to answer questions related to theming in LaunchBox and Big Box. And I got some pretty exciting stuff. Just note that anything worked on this stream or any previous streams, the files will be available on the community forums. And once they're available, I will do my best to put a link down in the description if you're watching this later on YouTube. And then you can follow along with the actual files that I worked on and use them in whatever project that you have going on. Cody Man themes, hope you're doing well today. I've been seeing a number of themes of people sharing them, and always excited to see new themes. I just wanted to show you guys the forums just for a second before I jump into anything. I go to the download section here. Let's just jump into the big box themes. So we've got Fading Elegance by the Pawpaw. So if you guys didn't see this jump on the stream onto the forums, you can definitely take a look at the videos and stuff. He even made a startup theme and I think a pause theme for this as well, which of course reminded me that I should probably get around to doing a little segment on startup and shutdown themes, at least a basic one. And I thought maybe that's what I should do right now. Do a little bit of a sort of like a beginner course of how you would start your own startup and shutdown screens. What are they even in LaunchBox? And yeah, I won't go through everything. Let's see if do I have anything open here already? Let's open up LaunchBox. And of course, so for startup and shutdown screens, these are something that both LaunchBox and Big Box have. They're separate from each other, although they use the same files. They're separate configuration from each other. You would go into the options menu and you'll see that we have a game startup section. And here you can see that we have the default startup theme. You can turn them on and off. I believe the default is on, but don't quote me on that. And then you can download different ones from the forums and kind of load them up here. Big Box has its own section as well that you can then go and switch to different startup themes that you want. And it just essentially is the transition theme between when you launch a game and when the game actually launches. That's what that is. So you can make that look, any way that you really want. Edward, is there a way to set up a specific image for the marquee for all the games for a specific platform? You want to use a controller image for the games of a platform. So yes, there is a way to do this. So you're wanting, so let me just clarify what I think that you're saying. So you want a marquee to have a specific image that is related specifically to a platform that you have in your library. So that image could be named, Nintendo Entertainment System.png, and it will load into your marquee window. And that's it. That's all it will show or in the marquee screen. Did I get that right? Let me know if I did. I'm assuming that I did. And if I did, let me get going. I can show you a couple ways that you can do this. Let's do that in the community theme creator, since then I can provide you with files. And Ricardo, welcome in. Welcome in. Right now, we're answering Edward's question about how would you go ahead and create a marquee view that just displays one image, and that image is related to a specific platform in your library. So let's create a new theme, and I'll call it Marquee Platform. Marquee Platforms. And we are going to use Nintendo as an example. We'll jump into a game marquee view, since that's the one that would be displayed, I would assume. And a couple things we'll need to do. First, you want an image. And you want it full screen. And Bobby-Wan Kenobi, it's very difficult to have a great marquee that's 1920 by 360. It's true that there's a lot of different size marquees. Specifically those ones, I'm assuming you're talking about ones that were like cut. So there's a certain monitors that you can purchase that have actually been physically cut. So the screen itself has no idea that it's a 1920 by 360 screen. It thinks it's just, 1920 by 1080. So it virtually tries to use all the space, but you really are only seeing part of that space. So because of that, you kind of have to trick the marquee into thinking, or trick that screen into thinking that you're using only that space available. Now, I've never had one of those screens before, so I'm not sure whether, and it might be different for every single screen. Some screens might be cut, I guess, on the top here, so you only see this space. Some screens might be cut at the bottom here. I'm not really certain. So you would, if you wanted to create your own, because that's a very specific use case, you could, in this exact scenario I'm talking about, you would create an image and you would place it, in the space of where that marquee would technically be. And then the image would only be displayed in that area, thus allowing it to work for a cut LCD monitor. Now, Edward, let's take a look. I'm assuming that you just want to fill the entire space here. I'm just gonna. So here's an image. I haven't told what the image should be. I'm gonna open a media folder, and I don't really have an image available, so I'm just gonna use a random image for you, just to prove a point that it will or should work. Let's see, what kind of images do I have? Let's use, this is actually perfect, because I just received from Viking his hardware set images. So I'll just make a copy of these hardware set images to use as an example, since they're already named the way that I want. And I'll put them in my media folder. Here they come. Okay, so basically what you're trying to get it to do is say, okay, look for what platform a game it is under. So in this case, it would be the platform name. So it's going to say, okay, you're on this particular game. What platform is this game? This game is a Nintendo Entertainment System platform. We'll take that text and then look for an image inside of a folder called hardware set for the text Nintendo Entertainment System .png. And there it is. I can center it because it's not exactly. And so if I go back into here, the hardware set, it literally just has a whole lot of images, each one named after a specific platform. Very important that they're .png when using the community theme creator, because that's the extension that the program's looking for. It won't look for .jpeg as an example. But now that I have that, let's see. I mean, it says basic is that, right? Let's see what happens. So if I just call this platform image, I can save this. And as I switch games or switch platforms, the marquee here should change to a different image. This is sort of what you want. Then you can just essentially use this folder for your purposes and just create like an image that has your controller that you want for like the Nintendo Game Boy. Call it Nintendo Game Boy .png, and then you're good to go. Does that essentially answer your question, Edward? I can also do this with code if you want. Let me know if you want that to be done. I can always send you specifically or upload these files specifically for you, both with the community theme creator or the code. But doing it this way might be good, especially if you were in the middle of customizing or building your own theme in the community theme creator, because then you can just copy this whole theme that I created, do a copy, jump over to your theme, and then paste it into Game Marquee View. Yeah, some things that I always find troubling is if I'm saving the image not as a PNG, and I'm sitting there like, I'm pretty sure I saved the image there, and I'm pretty sure I called it the right thing, and it just happened to be a JPEG, and I'm like, oh, rookie mistake. All right, Edward, sounds good. Glad that it worked out. All right, all right, tool and die. Is it possible on Unified Redux? So the particular theme. So that theme wasn't built in the community theme creator. Maybe one week I should have port a similar theme to it. That would be pretty cool. And you're asking in that theme, so like one of the Unified themes, could you put a cover picture behind the game wheel? So the cover pic, I'm assuming you're referring to something like the box art, and you want to put that behind the game wheel, or it's some sort of image representing the cover pic like CoinOPS, so like a background image. That's what CoinOPS uses. You could do that. I mean, yeah, it would be easier if it was in the community theme creator. But if it wasn't, what I can show you how to do that in basic terms. So like all it will have is an image, and that image will be displayed behind the game wheel like CoinOPS. And the issue that you're going to have, so like you probably want like some polish, right? The polish won't necessarily be there because the polish will all be in the images, or the way that you trick the images into displaying only like part of it. So I can show you sort of how that would work. So let's do that. So let's say Unified CoinOPS. So I can visually show you sort of how it would function without deep diving into code right now. Okay, so let's say you're basically saying, I've got a wheel. This wheel is in this corner. Yeah. Something along those lines. And you want an image. I'll kind of show you sort of what it looks like so that you understand sort of what we have to deal with maybe the polish and that sort of thing. So we're looking for something like the fan art. So the fan art is controlled inside of Big Box by your background priorities, which is within the LaunchBox options. So it will basically use the images that you have within your background priorities. By default, I believe it's like the fan art and any other sort of background images from all the different storefronts. I usually add as well, I'll add like a gameplay screenshot or something, because I know that not all of my games have a background, but quite a few of them would in, let's say, the arcade section. So let's go find a game that has a background. There's one. Let's see if there's one that doesn't have a black background. All right, perfect. Okay, so here's a background. You're basically saying, I want it to go here. Something along the lines of this. And you want it to be behind the wheel. And you want it to fill the whole space, as an example, which you can do using a stretch property called uniform to fill. And then maybe, I'm not sure if this is done, maybe you would want to center this image, because a lot of times these images have something, nice to see in the center. So you'll click the center horizontal button and realize like nothing's happening. It's not actually doing anything. So one trick that you can do is you can create, I think any of these, I'm just going to create a dock. I'm going to put it just above this background image. And I'm going to copy and paste this doc's layout from the background image so that they're exactly the same size. I'm going to place the image inside of there. Now at this point, I can say I want the width to be auto-sized to the actual dock container. And at this point, I should be able to center this. Let's see. There we go. And now it's all nice and centered no matter what background image is there. But what you'll notice is that this part here, I mean, it's going to be a very rough edge. And I know that the CoinOPS will either do like either an opacity mask or some sort of image on top of overlay to soften this edge, right? So if you go and you look closely at that theme, there's some sort of softening of this edge going on. And so there's two ways that you can do that, but that's what's going to take the longest time. You can build an image that will soften this edge to a particular color. I don't think that would work so well, though, in a theme like Unified. We probably will have to fade this out via an opacity mask. That would probably be the safest option. And the way to do that is to, I think this last step, I'll do this. And then what you can do, Tool and Die, is if you can send me a message on the forums. And then on the community forums, just send a message to Farron. And then I will provide you, if you're specifically wanting this to happen inside of the current Unified Redux theme, I'll do that for you. I'll make that up. But visually, let's finish what we're doing here. So we'll see all this mess. I'm gonna bring over. Okay, that's not working. I'm gonna bring over my Photoshop so that I can kind of show you what this would look like. Okay, an opacity mask is essentially two different All right, let's make this smaller. Let's bring back Photoshop. It's actually two different colors. Two different colors. It's black and transparent. In this image, wherever I put black, that's going to be where it's going to show the image. Wherever it's transparent, that's where it's not going to show the image. So simply, I can do this. I know that the image size that I want is going to be basically up to here. Actually, I can even do something better. I can take a look at this and I'll know exactly the size that I want. So I want a width of 1526 and a height of 1438. That's an odd height. That's better. 1526 and a height of 1440. So I'm just going to create a new image. 1526 and 1440. And I want this to essentially be black. Actually, I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to create a gradient. These new gradient options here are not the best. Okay. This side, the opacity is 0. I'm also going to push this to black. All right, so half of this is black, half of this is, let's just make sure. Not quite, eh? Black. Opacity 0. Okay. And yes, Laser Dude, I know you got the answer, but there is a downloader for a theme downloader inside of BigBox. And the way that works is that themes have to pass sort of like a testing. So you would upload your theme as a theme developer, and then you would test. We would test internally the theme to make sure that there's no glaring issues with it, that has all the parts necessary to be a theme, and it doesn't error. And then once it passes that, it will appear within the managed theme section in BigBox for anyone to download. So you can see here, okay, so I want to soften. Not exactly the way what I wanted, but there we go. Let's get it right there. I mean, we don't have to make this perfect. Okay, so let's say you had something like this that you wanted, and then we would save it. I would navigate to the theme folder. See what I called it, Unified CoinOPS. I'll create a folder. So now I've got my opacity mask image. And now all I have to do is apply it. Go to my background images. Go to opacity mask with an image. And there we go. Okay, it gives it that sort of the polish that you're kind of hoping for, right? And Edward, would be cool if you could import older themes into the creator for us XAML challenge. Now, that would be the ultimate goal, right? Unfortunately, it's not possible. What I would have to do, and what I've sort of been slowly trying to do, is port old themes over to the community theme creator, and that does take time. But when it's done it'll benefit people like you who want to go into the community theme creator and spin up some old themes. So I've been slowly working and chipping away at Coverbox, chipping away at Colorful, and a few others. Maybe I can add Unified to the list. I actually think Unified would be the easiest one to do. It would be potentially super quick-ish, but I would run into some issues I can think of. Challenges where I would have to figure out ways around it. Right. Oh, and Tool and Die, you're hoping to curve the opacity mask. So yeah, so that's something that I can do later. Technically, you can see how it should function, and all that really would be required is to have sort of like a circular gradient there, and then it would be good to go. But I'll keep that note in mind, and remember when you send me the message on the forums, and then I'll cook something up for you. All right, so in saying all of that, let's just do a quick 10-minute summary of startup themes. And Willie, I do see you there. How you doing today? Hope you're having a good Friday. Startup themes. There's no community theme creator for this, which is probably why we do have quite a few startup themes available within the forums. So you can go to our download section and see all of these startup themes. 21 in total. A small selection of these are available from within BigBox itself. You can see a bunch of these are quite nice, actually. And of course, we just had the Pawpaw release his just yesterday or something, like 7 hours today. He released it. So themes are coming. And then, of course, Jay's Arcade released his vertical one recently on Saturday. So you can go to the forums. The forums is the best place to get the most up-to-date versions of every single theme possible, whereas the big box is more like your small curated selection of themes that have been gone through its rigorous testing to make sure that it works functionally well for you guys. All right, so all the themes on the forums, not vetted by us, so a lot more availability, a lot more variety. You just have to know that that's the risk that you take on. You just have to, if one doesn't work, you just have to stop using it. All right, so let's take a look at LaunchBox. How would you start one? If you're like, I want to start a startup theme, well, let's take a look at what the default looks like. So if I clicked on any one of these games and loaded it up, let's take a look. Crater Maze. Oh, you know what's going to happen? OBS doesn't actually allow me to... Let me see if I can solve that. OBS has this issue where it won't show you exactly what's on my monitor. So it kind of jumps over the startup screen. Should be able to change some settings possibly for you. All right. So potentially, if I make it last longer, I mean, let's see. So you can see here, here's the managed themes. Here's the managed startup themes. So you can jump in there and you can see what's available. And it looks like this. I have all these installed. Here are all the ones available. You can download them directly from in there. So let's go to my startup settings. And let's just increase this time for you guys so that I can actually show you. Hopefully OBS won't Actually, I don't need that. And you can see here in Big Box, startup theme default. So it's using the default one right now for Big Box only. That's a Big Box specific. Okay, so let's jump into one of those games. Okay. Here's Bomberman. So let's play and see what happens. Okay, so you see that on the screen. That's a startup screen. Built into the startup screen, we have a if you are extracting from an archive or something like that, you will see a load bar. Other than that, you won't see a load bar. It'll just say now loading and then bring it up. But what if you wanted to create your own? This is the steps, the generic steps. You would go into your LaunchBox folder. You would find the startup themes folder. And then you would take the default and you're going to make a copy of it. You see, I kind of did that here, but I'm going to make another copy. And then you're going to give it any name that you want. The name of the folder will determine the name that appears in Big Box and LaunchBox. So in this case, this is going to be called a very good startup theme. Know that. Here you can see a couple things going on. The first one you'll notice is that the file called default.xaml is going to be your startup theme. Your default startup theme. The file called default shutdown is going to be your default shutdown screen. So they actually have different files. You can open them up and edit them independently. The ones that actually have the name of the platform are platform specific startup themes. So you would essentially, you would only see this file if you launched a Nintendo GameCube game. You would only see this file if you launched a Nintendo Wii game. So you could have very specific startups for some of your platforms. And you can kind of see here the reason why these ones were chosen for the default is because these ones are disk-based platforms, and therefore this one has an animation of a rotating disk, just to show you the variety. All right, but for us, let's make it simple. Oh, and by the way, if you're wanting a platform-specific shutdown screen, I'm pretty sure the way that it works is that you would just give it the name of the platform. You would add the word shutdown at the beginning. I believe it's something like that. All right, but let's make it simple. We've got one default and one startup and one shutdown. And you would open it up and you would have elements that you want to show, other elements you might not. So let's see what's going on in here. And I'll break this down as best I can and give it some comments for you guys. Okay, so you can see here, there's an image. There's an image. Let me make this a bit bigger for you guys. And this is a grid. So everything inside of here is something. Okay, so you can see that it's broken down into multiple chunks. This first chunk is the background, basically background image, whether it's fan art or whatever you put in the background image priorities. That's what this would be. This next one is the parent grid, but inside of the parent grid, you'll see this line right here. So this is what we call a background fade. This is essentially just a giant rectangle of black that you can determine how black it is. A user determines how black it is within this setting, right? Let's see if I can find it now. Right here. So background fade setting. It will change how how much opacity it is. So it's like 80% opacity, let's say, and a user can control that. So an image will be more black, will be more faded with this code there. If you don't want that in your theme, you can simply just erase this. This image right here is the clear logo image. This one here is the cart, is the cart, specifically the front of a cart image. And then this one here is the interesting one. So this one is a number of things in one. It's essentially the banner in the middle. So this is the banner in the middle, which is essentially a grid with a background, sort of like a black background. This right here controls the loading line when a game is extracting from an archive. And then this is the title, I think. Let's see. No, this is the now loading text. So as a theme developer, you have the ability to keep, move, or remove any of these elements from your startup. So let's do something simple. Let's get rid of this cart image and replace it with another image. I don't want to see the cart. I want to see the box, let's say. So what I would do as someone that, let's say, is just beginning, I would go into the themes folder. I would grab the documentation.pdf file, and there it is. And I would look for the section that starts with active game, which is a lot of this actually. Okay, so we're sort of here. All of these are the different image groups that we can call, and what did I say? I want the, sort of like the box front, or you can have the box 3D image. That's an option. I don't have any of those, so I'm going to just do the front image path, which refers to essentially anything within your box front group priority inside of the LaunchBox options. And you can see here that there's a specific binding for it. Active game front image path. So if I go back here, you'll notice that it doesn't say active game, it says selected game. That's very important for startup screens. You'll want to make sure that for all startup and including pause screens, that this remains selected game. So, I mean, I can do that and then I can rename this selected game. Front image path. I save that out. Now all of a sudden this is the box front image. Did I do that right? Let's find out. I can go here if I wanted to test it. What's great is I don't have to leave Big Box to test this. I can just change this to that. That's one way to change it. A second way to change your theme is to go to Manage Startup Themes. Click on Installed All, and you'll find your theme in there. And you say Apply Startup Theme. Successfully applied this theme as your game startup theme. Done. Let's see. If I did that right, I should see the Bomberman front box within, there it is, in the top right corner. So that's how you do a basic edit of a startup theme. Other than that, you have full control over your grids, full control over your placement of the item. I could move that box, make it larger, make it smaller, We just need to know some basic grid code. And Diedrich, I am looking forward for startup and shutdown themes to be added to the CTC. I would love for that to happen, especially on pause themes. All that stuff would be awesome, right? We just gotta keep cheering Dave on. Hope he's doing well. We know that his laptop that he was using to code the community theme creator did break down, and he's definitely looking for a new laptop at the moment. So wish him the best for that. But yeah, Bomberman. What's really cool, and I don't know if you guys had the same experience, but recently I've been looking at all of the games that I grew up with and noticing that they may have had sequels or like remakes on systems that I never had. So I recently looked at the TurboGrafx 16, which is why I'm sort of like hovering on this system. And a game that I loved growing up was Adventure Island. I loved that game. I had it for Game Boy, I had it for Nintendo. And I noticed that Adventure Island has there's a version of Adventure Island on the TurboGrafx 16 called like a New Adventure Island or something like that. And so I was just checking it out recently, and then I realized there's so many of things like that on many different systems, not just the TurboGrafx 16. So that's probably something I'm very interested in doing, just like checking out all the different franchises that I grew up with and seeing all those weird versions of those games on systems that I just never had growing up. Let's see, there it is, New Adventure Island. I played this over the weekend and was definitely surprised. If you're a fan of Adventure Island, it's a great game to play. Very fun to go through. The only thing I missed was there was no dinosaurs in this one, which I thought was strange. That's right, Christian. Games that had regional releases that never came to the North America that are now translated. There are many of those too. So many cool things that you can find. And Survivor, welcome in. Oh, and before that, Riaz, you had a version of Bomberman for your first ever mobile, an LG flip phone you had in 2004. They put Bomberman on a 2004 LG flip phone. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's true that it might be called Dino Blaster. And Survivor, you want to make an animation that blinks the 3 dots in the now loading. Is that possible? And you want to do that in a startup theme or just somewhere loading like a game view or something like that? And if it's in the startup theme, so Diedrich, you're saying, or Diedrich, you hacked a startup theme and you placed dots, or sorry, you covered the 3 dots with, I guess, a black box and then animated them to expose the dots. So that's a good idea. You could definitely do that. But yeah, it would all be about animation, right? You would have to learn about animation and code. I can kind of show you how that would happen inside of the community theme creator. So let's say, let's just go into any one of these views. And I'll recreate what I'll recreate it with the black boxes. Oh, okay. There we go. So imagine you had text right here and it had all of those things. Now, essentially, what it sounds like you did was you took a rectangle, you colored it black, made it small enough to go over one of these. I don't know if you went this involved, but then you'd paste a couple more. And one more. Oh, I just missed it. And so what you would do is that individually you would have to provide it some sort of animation. So you would say immediately, I want this to go from 100% opacity to 0 at 0.5 start time. Maybe take 0.1 second. Let's do 1 second, just to make it make sense. Then I can copy and paste that animation to these ones. And you could do it like that. So this is sort of like a hacky way of definitely doing that. You can kind of see there, it came in. Now, you're right, Survivor. So if you were using a different language, maybe these rectangles wouldn't be in the right spot. And that's an issue. So what you would have to do in your case is you would have to remove what's there, like remove the loading binding entirely, and you'd have to create your own. So you would say something like, you have text, you would create something called loading. So this is your loading text, but then you would have to create 3 new elements. Each one, let's just make a copy of this. Each one just with 1 dot. So now that you have 3 separate elements, and then I'd probably combine them all inside of a doc, let's say. Let's just call it dot. Each one all size automatically. And then I'll do a third one. Hopefully this makes sense. So at this point, you would give this the name that you want specifically. And then these dots you can animate individually in the same way that I did the rectangles. that sort of make sense? So that's another way to do it. Right, and just to showcase what that looks like. So after 1 second, we can go from 0 opacity to 100. Pasting animations onto all 3 of these, and we'll just give it like 2 seconds, and then we'll give it 3 seconds. And now if you check when I do this, that let's see if that animation actually works. Right, let's give it an actual time that it will take. And then you can turn on animations. Oh, it happened really fast. You also have to put an animation at the very beginning saying, make it 0. There it goes. That makes more sense. So hopefully that makes sense on what you would have to do to accomplish something like these 3 dots. It's sort of, once you have a specific design like this, then you can go ahead and see what it would take to accomplish something like this. It definitely takes some ingenuity, but this is definitely one way you can accomplish that. And of course, the rectangles might be another way. Just for consistency, let me just finish over. It's not saving that one, is it? There it goes. 1, 2, 3. And then you can program this so that it goes on a loop, that sort of thing. That makes sense? If you're really wanting something like that, and you're wanting it to be in your startup theme, I can see what I can do about creating all the small animations and showing all these little things on how to do animations inside of a startup theme. I mean, it's the same way to do it in a regular theme. It's like the code version of the same logic as this. So hopefully that helped you out. If not, let me know. But I guess one thing that I want to do today is, now that we've gone through the startup themes, is I got challenged by CBeatt on the weekend with a very specific challenge, and I wanted to see if I was able to do this. And essentially the challenge went like this: could you build a theme that had absolutely like no images, in the sense like no image bindings at all, for users that might not have any images at all? like a DOS based prompt theme, and make it seem good. And it gave me the example of, if I remember correctly, Pip-Boy. Was it Pip-Boy? from Fallout. One of these screens. I can't really remember. Not this one exactly. Like just as an idea, although this one has an image. And so I thought about it, and I thought I probably could do this. And I've been wanting to do sort of like a DOS version, a DOS theme. And then this sort of gave me more ideas. So I broke it down into 2 different themes that I probably want to create. And let's see if I can do it. Let's see how far I get in this stream. Could I create a text-based theme for people to use? Now, at the same time, there was, and I don't know if I can find it, there was one created a while ago that no longer functions properly just because of the way that it was coded. I don't know if I can find it. Let's see. I think it was called DOS something, DOS theme. Can I click on this? No, let's just enter. So there was this one that was created. It no longer functions properly is what people are saying. I guess it does stuff like this. It's an old enough theme that it's not quite working that well. So I thought maybe I can try to recreate something like this, make it better, put it on the community theme creator. It's something that I've always sort of wanted to do, but when I looked at the theme in particular, the image quality wasn't very good. Like, it was extremely blurry. It looks like the guy tried to take it from, Walter here tried to take it from what the LaunchBox for MS-DOS kind of looks like. So LaunchBox for MS-DOS looks like this, and of course, this is a tiny resolution. So what I did was I rebuilt this in HD in Photoshop to the best that I could. Tried to like polish it up. Like, what would DOS look like now if it was 1080p? And I created some images. Let's start there. Let's see what I can do with that. So let's create a new theme, and we'll call it DOS Matrix. I thought it was a funny name. And of course, we're going to have 2 different views. We're going to have like a platform text view, which is called text filters view, and the text games. Let's start with the filters one. Well, let me double check. So I created these images and I placed them somewhere. One of 2 spots. I either place them in this one. Okay, so I did. Cool. All right, so we already have the wheel here. But first, let's get the background image. And yeah, Ernesto, like a DOS theme does seem like it could be useful, could be fun. In this one, I'm going to try to be like as strict as possible. What would a DOS, those setup files that we used to go through, if you remember setting up or installing DOS games, it's like, what do those like look like? How do we get the nostalgic value from that? Well, it would be like this. Oops. Let's do a static image. We'll browse. There it is. Create a folder. Doesn't really matter what this folder is called. There's the MS-DOS background. I think that's all I need. I might need one more thing, but we'll take a look. I'm not seeing the image. Let me just double check if I put it somewhere else. I'll create it on the way. And Riaz, you love DOS games. I love DOS games too. I love getting those shareware discs from the store and seeing what you got. A game called Bass Tour from about 1992. I do not remember that game at all. I do remember playing a fishing game back in the day, although to be honest, I don't remember what it was called. All right, so there's my HD version of that same exact screen. So hopefully it's not so jarring, and we'll see what kind of creativity we can do here. Okay. So I mean we don't need that much, right? We really need to turn this into a DOS-based experience. Something like that. How would we go about that? Well, we need a DOS-based font, don't we? Luckily, I downloaded this one. We'll make this a bit bigger. Okay, getting there. Let's take a look at some reference images. So you can see that the background or the text is white. The line is white, but the font when it's selected is blue. And it looks to be the same blue as the background. So we could do this, but then I noticed that I don't know if I backed out of this too far. There it is. That he did red as the background image. Does anybody care which one it is? Anybody have a preference? Red, black, or white? We can go with the authentic experience. Let's just see if... no, this is not... Oh, is this working? This is potentially working. Let's find out. It is not. So let's switch to a different preset. I know that preset 8 definitely does work. There we go. So you can see here in the wheel, Dave did some improvements before his laptop died. Basically making it so at least preset 8, if not a few other presets, would function properly with some new variables that he added. So we've got the foreground color, which you can see is just the color that every single item is. Down here, we've got whatever the selected item is. So the selected item, I want it to be the same color as the background there. So I'll paste that in there. There we go. And the background, I wanted it to be white. And I've got to do the same thing for the search index. So I do also want the search index foreground. I want it to be the same color as this. Oh, the selected foreground anyway. The background ones, I'll make it white as well, or the ones not selected. And then for the selected background, I'll also make it white. There we go. Edward, reading 1992 doesn't sound old, but then I realized it's almost 30 years ago. Yeah, it's a long time ago now, isn't it? You remember you used to need different floppies for different boot disks. Regarding EMS memory configs, Ultima Underworld needed a certain config, Monkey Island would need another. Those were the days. I remember being at my cousin's house, and I was trying to show him an old, I don't remember which game it was. It was an old Sierra adventure game, maybe like Space Quest 3 or something. And I had all of the discs. And I can't remember what computer he has. I just remember we plopped in disc 1. We're going through the installation process, and it was took like 40 minutes or something to install that game onto his particular computer, whatever it was. Can you imagine doing that now? Popping in disc 1 and just waiting for like 8 minutes, and then okay, popping in disc 2, and you've got a set of like 6 to 7 discs. You're just waiting, wanting to play the game. All right, let's give it some extra padding. Don't necessarily need to be honest. So instead of that, let's just do something like that. All right. We'll create a new text. We'll put it up here. Give it that yellow color. And tell it to not the title. I want it to be the platform name. So whatever platform you're on, give it the same font. That's right, yeah. 40 minutes if you're going to play a 120 gig game that you have to download. That's true. I guess it's similar on consoles these days, isn't it? I haven't had a recent console, but I remember when I had the PlayStation 3, it was just update after update if I'm wanting to turn that thing on. That's right, Edward. There's so many updates these days. All right, so we'll stick it on the bottom. We will make it larger, so 40. All right, so far, so good. Not too bad. That's as basic as it can be, right? You've got your you've got their platform that you're in. Actually, why am I putting the platform up there? What I should put, because this is the platform view, what I should put is either the title name. Let's see, what can we put here? We could put the title, which basically says you're in the platforms category. I think I might want to do that. That's right. Yeah, most won't let you skip the update. They want you to be on the most up-to-date version for whatever the reason is. Bugs or exploits or whatnot. Being on a server that you need to match your... like doing multiplayer. But even when it's not multiplayer, it seems like you have to get the update. Yeah. All right, so let's do that. We definitely want year, and then probably we are going to want something here like the developer. You can see Arcade doesn't actually have a developer, so let's go to one that does. Now let's just bring up the reference image just to make sure we're doing stuff right. So this, you can see that's all they had. So let's go back to what the actual we will have to sorry, we will have to do some extrapolating. So this, you can see Jason was using this section to switch filters. We could simulate that by doing this. We would have a dock, and that dock would have a background of white. I think. Apparently it doesn't. So maybe it needs something inside of it. Then we will put the developer, take the layout, place it over the developer, place the developer inside of this. Yeah, that's what it needed. And we'll do that. The color of the white, let's just double check. White, and then it was black. So this now becomes black. And we'll give it some padding on the sides. This will be 15 left and right. And top and bottom, maybe 5. Ah, I see. Doesn't have enough space for that. There we go. Something like that. This one will be a bracket. I might just be able to do that. That's scary though. Right bracket. Oh, it can't contain that, can it? I can't remember. He probably didn't program anything in to allow me to use that. Alright, well. What does that look like? Auto-sized, auto-sized. I have to auto-size this as well. There we go. Oh, Christian, I'm just gonna say hello, how are you doing? All the way from Greece, eh? Hopefully you're having a good Friday. I don't even know if is it still Friday there? Constant value. There we go. Okay. I'm going to remove the brackets on the left and right. Okay, cool. Could do this one, I guess. That one looks good. Okay, so we've got the Net Corporation. So we've got the developer on this side. And then what I'd want to do is paste another one. Let's see if I can grab this, and we'll place it on this side. There we go, nice and centered. But this dock we will align to the right. And we'll change this middle one to the release year, which now I'm realizing gonna need a new element. Place it right there. All right, so let's give this one the properties that we need to have. 15, 15, 5, 2. Year, I think 42. Let me just double check. Yeah, I am right. Change the font. And we will... I think we're good. I think we're good. And we'll color that black. Okay. So obviously that did not get its right position because it needs to be inside of another element. That's stationary. I'll use this one. There we go. So that's how you would get it all nice and right aligned. Not that I really needed to do that, to be honest, just because the date will not change. However, some systems will not have a platform developer. Some systems will not have a release date. So what would I do to accommodate that? Well, I could take this dock or this stack. Let's just do the dock. And I can apply a visibility condition. I can say collapse this whole dock if the release date if the text itself has no value. And we'll do the same thing with this dock. And that way we won't leave these brackets, you know, and the background hanging there with nothing inside. It'll just completely disappear. So this one I can just say, hey, if there's nothing in platform developer metadata, then go away. Let's just test that out. We can test that out with system like Arcade, where there's not necessarily one person that created that. And there it goes, disappears, leaving a nice clean area here. I think I'm pretty good. The only thing missing, I feel, is probably the Chris, we need an image over top everything tied to an animation that fires up after about 60 seconds. That's a blue screen of death appears and blocks everything. You're so mean. But you know what could be useful is I'm missing some arrows. Let me just double check if I have them available here. Okay, here we go. I was pretty certain I saved this, but okay. So I've got an arrow here. And I essentially want to... No, that was not right. I must be on the wrong layer. I am on the wrong layer. So arrow up. That's better. And I'm going to save this inside of our theme. All right, and I should only need one arrow, I think. Let's see what happens. So why do I want an arrow, and why do I want it to not just be part of the background? Well, in this case, I want it to be able to tell you which direction that you're going based on your clicks. And you should be able to do this with our new navigation direction triggers, which are a part of the community theme creator. This is how you do them. You create an image. I'll call it arrow. In this case, arrow up. I'll go find the image in our themes folder, arrow up. There it is. I'm just going to make it the exact size of the arrow. I'll go here to determine, okay, so it's 18 by 24. So I'll type that in here, 18 by 24. There's the arrow. And I'll position it. I should probably just move it with my mouse roughly where I want it to be. See if how perfect I can get it. That's not bad. All right, so now we've got this unassuming arrow right in this corner. What can we do with it? Let's see what the different things I can do with it. I can provide an animation to it where I can say, if I navigate up, then I can adjust the opacity of it. That's something I can definitely do. But let's say I wanted to make it, let's think about this. Let's say I wanted to make this white. How would I do that? Like when you go up, make it white. And only make it white if you click up. So it's very apparent that you are clicking up. Well, the way that I would probably go about that is I would create, oops. I did not want to paste that element. So I would make a copy of this. So let's make a copy. We'll call this the arrow. Oh, I should have pasted it in place. So it's right on top of it. We'll call this one the overlay. And we can do this one of two ways. So I can say collapse this. I think I can do it this way. I've never done it this way, so therefore I would love to figure out whether it can. Make this visible. No. I remembered he added them in this section here, but I don't see them. So maybe he removed them. How are you doing, Gautami? Hopefully you're having a great Friday. Welcome back into the stream. So instead, let's do this via... Actually, maybe he added it to the color. So we'll use a color tint, we'll make it white. The opacity mask using the current image, so now I've got it white. Can I add it to this color tint? Actually, let me just check to see if I can actually do this or not. Maybe he hid them in here. You did not. Okay, so we can do this a different way. He must have showed me a proof of concept at some point. Okay, so now that they're white, we can simply animate this. So we can say immediately, I want to make the opacity nothing. So nothing's going on. And only when we navigate up do we want that opacity to go from the current opacity to 100. And let's see, there's two ways that I could do this. If navigation goes to the center, then turn it off. Could be like that. Now, I don't know if I can check it. If you double click this virtual gamepad, this does pop out like this. What's cool is that he made this all with XAML. I don't know if he actually... Okay, there you go. Yeah, see that? I hold up and it's white. Actually, let me just click off of that. If I hold up, it turns white. See that? Using the virtual gamepad. Click, click, click. There you go. That's pretty cool. So now I've got to do the same thing, but on the down. How would I do that easily? Let's find out. Let's create a grid. And we'll call this the arrow up grid. And we're going to make it the same layout as our arrows. And we will shove our two images inside of here. All right, just double check everything's still working okay. Oops. Yep. Still working. Now I'm just going to make a complete copy of this. Copy, paste. So now we've got a second grid. And I'm going to call it arrow down grid. When I don't get confused, I will change the name of them all. And I can do it with the actual grid. All I have to do, all I have to do with this arrow down grid is give it a new angle. And we're looking for an exact 180. There you go. I'm going to lock the contents inside of them so that I can grab this and place it in a spot that's perfectly, you can see the smart align telling me, yeah, I'm right in the middle where I need to be. And let's see how I did. Not too bad. I'm going to move it back just a tiny bit. Perfect. Let's see if I did that right. Using one up arrow image, we managed to get an up arrow and a down arrow. Of course, I need to change the animation based off of that. So let's go to the down animation, unlock that layer. And we're going to change this navigation up to navigation down. We should be good to go from now. There you go. Down, up. Not too bad. Last thing I want to do, I'm debating, I think I'm going to put it on this side. Oh, it's in a stack. So then maybe I'll put it on this side. I still want it on this side, don't I? So we're going to create a new doc. copy the stack here, paste the layout of this dock. I'm going to make it larger. Bring it down here. I'm going to take the contents of this and stick it into this dock. I don't need this anymore. And the dock, we're going to write a line. There we go. Now I can paste another one again here. I will need this as a reference here. Remove the release date. And we're going to give ourselves a total games area here. Give us some separation. I'm going to say 25 is probably good. I'll say total games metadata. There's the total games number. Down here, we're going to have just the word total games. And this one, we're also just going to have the word S. We're going to remove the margins on these ones. Add it back on this side. Okay, so why did I do that? For people that have watched previous streams, the reason why, because this is total game text, and this one is just the word S. But we only want to see this one if there's more than... let's see if we can do it backwards. We don't want to see this if a platform or playlist only has one game. So essentially, I'm going to come here and say, if your total game count is value there's just two values, is 1 or none. I doubt there's going to be none, but cover our basis. There we go. And Riaz, your first ever PC in 1992 was a Packard Bell 486 SX20 with 2 megabytes of RAM and 512K graphics card. It had 40 megabyte hard drive, which was quite a bit for that time. I don't remember what my first computer... I got a monochrome laptop from my dad's work. Why is this one glaring at me? Something's wrong with the conditions here. Ah, right. I should not need this anymore. So let's clear that. Your first game was Sid Meier's Civilization. That would have been a great game to have. All I had was a rejected monochrome business laptop that had no battery. So you'd plug it in, and then we had... I remember having Space Quest 3. I think that was my first game, as far as IBM computers was concerned. Which is interesting that it just happened to be on the laptop. It's not like we went out and got the game. Space Quest 3 just happened to be on this business laptop. Had no color, so we played it in monochrome screen until our rejected, I think, 6-color monitor that was about maybe 6 to 9 inches was brought home. And so we were able to experience Space Quest 3 with like 8 colors. And it just meant that like a lot of things were purple. Oh, Neil. Welcome in, Neil. I did not see you say anything earlier. Sorry if I didn't, or if you just arrived. Hope you're having a good evening. I think I'm good. I think I'm good here. We've got some dynamic navigation direction bindings, and we've got as basic as you're gonna get Windows view. Let's see what it looks like if I jump over to another platform. It should include the year and the developer. I think we're good. Okay, let's jump over to a games. And by this, I can just copy this, and we're going to paste it in this one here. We should have all the elements that we need to create this view. All right, so this title name will be changed to platform title. We'll give it, oops. We'll give it the, let's see, which one should we take? Known platform or playlist? I think that's an interesting one. It'll tell you which playlist that you're in or which platform that you're in. So that might be a good one to choose. This one down here automatically switched itself to the game developer, so we don't have to even touch that one. This one down here we can change. And this one changed itself over to the year, release year of the actual game. So I think we're almost there. We don't need as many things in here. We can change this one to, actually, in saying that, we can convert this one to max players. So here we just give it the metadata of maximum player. And then here we change this to player. Oops, player. There we go. I think we're good to go. And that's what a complete basic looking MS-DOS theme would look like. But I wanted to have some fun. Actually, let's add the genre. How about that? I'm going to add it here. You're a bit late getting on here tonight, Neil. I'm just glad that you showed up. Always good to see you in these streams. Oh, you know what? This S isn't working here, is it? Let's see what we got here. So make it collapsed when the max player value is 1. Is 0. That should work now. So I wanted to delete this one and just add a genre. That's something that I'd want to see. We'll just choose the first one. And I might need to make the dock bigger at this point, won't I? There we go. How big's this dock up here? Oh, it's as big as it needs to be. Okay, cool. Mr. Retrolust, you're just in time to see the end of this theme. Oh, and I made a mistake there. We are basically completed this DOS-based theme. Let's just do a quick review. Basically, I created this background image in Photoshop. I then mimicked this after the version of LaunchBox, the MS-DOS Special Edition LaunchBox, but I made it HD, and then I just positioned some elements around to make sure that it looks very, very similar. Gives just enough detail. Let me just add my 25 margin there. Okay, that's better. Added a bunch of metadata, but really the cool thing that we did here was we're using the navigation binding so that when we navigate up or down, you can see these arrows here, they will turn white. So I go up, and if I hold it, it'll stay white. If I go down, it'll turn white. So that's really cool. It's right on top of my head. And then, of course, we've got both a games view that's doing this, and we've got the text filters view. All right, and that's one theme that I wanted to do. Let's see if I have enough time to get at least one other theme ready, because I thought this would be really cool. I want to have some fun with this. This was the more traditional theme that I wanted to create. Oh, have fun playing Diablo 2 Resurrected, Riaz. Enjoy your weekend. Definitely enjoy your weekend. Oh yeah, and Mr. Retrolust, you've been busy doing your overlays and your bezels. And you did an update for your Neon Arcade. Glad to see that update come through. All right, so let's have some fun. And for those that came late, this all came about because CBeatt, he challenged me to create a theme as basic and with as little text as possible. And this is what I came up with. and when he challenged me to that last weekend, I thought of two different concepts. This was one of them. And there's one more that I wanted to do that's more fun. So I'm going to call this one the dot matrix. Let me check. All right. Let's see how much I can do here. All right. So this one, I wanted to have some really good fun, and this is probably the first one that I thought of. Actually, I thought of both of them around the same time, and that's because he showed me an image. Maybe I can just find the image that you showed me. He showed me. Let me see. Here it is. Showed me this image and said, you know what? Maybe there's a way to do a theme that's, I mean, not like this exactly, but this kind of concept where there's just text, mostly text, nostalgic. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can create like an overlay. And I took inspiration from you, Mr. Retrolust, and opened up Photoshop, had a background. Let's see, do I have it open here? Here we go. Create. I had. Let me just see if I can parse some of this stuff back here. Look at this. Take an old scratchy monitor. Oh. Take a background. Oh, of course I. Take a background that I sort of like scrunched together. This background. And then place a few posters on the side of movies that I watched as a kid. And then turn the darkness down using adjustment layers. Give the needed darkness and brightness coming from the screen here. And there's the adjustment layer that'll make it look nice and dark. And there we have it. A nice dark image that I'm playing my games in the dark. Okay, so I took this and I put it down into an image. There it is. And we're going to bring it up here. Right? The Ewok Adventures. That was an amazing movie, like when I was a kid watching it for the first time. No, I'm doing the wrong thing. So let's bring the image in here. So I'm going to open up this. We're going to create a theme folder. And here's my background with the dark computer. There we go. And you can kind of see, I don't know if you can really see, I gave it a nice overlay as well as a slight tinge of yellow. And that's because I want the sort of dot matrix screen to be yellow. That's the goal anyway. So let's see what we can do. I want the list to sort of be in the middle here. I'm hoping I centered this properly. Okay. Oh. Maybe not. And so now we're going to create the wheel. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to switch over to preset 8 like I did with the other one, because that one gives me control for all these variables, all these settings here. I feel like some other ones do as well, but I know preset 8 is gives me exactly what I want. And what I want is a yellowness. We'll switch over to our perfect DOS VGA 437 font. We will bring up, I don't know how big should we want this, 30? It's not bad. Let's switch to a system that actually has a lot of games associated with it. MS-DOS, perfect for this situation, isn't it? There we go. Yeah, you might as well create a frame with that yellow. Maybe we need off yellow. I'm gonna have to choose which yellow that I like. Let's start with this one. There's our blaring yellow border there. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick the wheel inside of that. Okay, and then we can give the wheel sort of the padding that it wants. Start with 5 all the way around. Actually, I'll just fill the parent there so that I know it's correct. So far, so good. I switched over the wrong thing here, so let's do that. Let's make this black, so the selected item black, and make the background this yellow color. What would that look like? All right. Let me just raise this by 0.5. There we go. And we will make this so that if it gets too long, we will trim the characters on the side there. That's interesting that there's no trim. It's just like an A. That's odd. Okay. I don't really want to edit fonts again this week. So what we're going to do is we'll just wrap it with overflow. There we go. So it'll just get doubled the space. And, you know, Dave loves doing that. So at least we got one theme where it's got the setting he loves. We want to have the search index to also include the same color scheme. So by default, we'll have the same colors. We'll have no background. Selected item will be black, and then the selected item background will be yellow. Ah, you're catching on, Mr. Retrolust. Do a drop shadow to make the text glow. So the goal here, and what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to create. So instead of applying a drop shadow to the wheel, what I'll do is I'll create a canvas, and this canvas I'm going to put it exactly where I need it to be, like over top the screen. This is going to be my screen canvas. And then I'll give this canvas the drop shadow of that particular yellow, where the opacity, this is what we're going to have to control to see how much glow that we want. But definitely make sure the depth is 0, and then the blur radius is something where it'll just look like it's sort of hazing itself, right? And then we'll put anything we put in there will take on that glow. So I really only have to apply that drop shadow to one element. And let's turn it all the way up. And you can sort of see it there. We'll make sure that it's glowy, nice and glowy. If you have the blur radius too much, it kind of stops doing what it needs to do. All right, so we'll make sure that it's good, and then we'll control its brightness with the opacity. Okay, so far so good. But here's sort of the secret sauce to all of this. What I did was I thought, okay, how do I make this look like it's actually on a screen that would be from a screen of this era, and like a dot matrixy screen. And so I went into Photoshop and I created a pattern that looked like a dot matrix pattern. And what I ended up doing, this might not be the most real thing ever, but it gives this really cool effect. Let's see if I can accomplish this. I'm going to drop my dot matrix image in here. And we're going to put above everything. So I might even just put it on a new layer at the top. I'll call it my dot matrix overlay. Actually, you know what I'm going to have to do? Because this is actually my overlay now that I'm thinking about it. That makes more sense. Okay, so this is the dot matrix texture. So I basically created a texture. I'm going to full screen it. It'll only show up in this area, as you can kind of see. Let's point to it and see what it does to my text here. So now no matter what I put on this screen, it's going to take on these like little dots, giving it that sort of fox look that you kind of want. And then you can control that by its opacity. There we go, something like that. We'll see what happens at 50. At this point, it's all personal preference, right? The power LED needs to be on, doesn't it, Lex? Yeah, you're right. How would you go about doing that? Well, one way that you can do that is with an ellipse. The ellipses are essentially just geometric circles drawn by XAML. And what we could do is we can just give it that nice, puke green that it needs, and provide a size. Let's just think about this. Let's start with 15 by 15. That's potentially not small enough, is it? Let's do 12 by 12. It's looking not too bad. Let's move it over before I don't have actual ability to touch it. Let's do it smaller than that. I'm going with 10, I think. Now we're going to bring down this a bit until it actually looks like it's there. I'm on the wrong layer. $50 might be going a little too far. I'm almost thinking of making this a bit smaller, maybe 8. It's magically on. And then we can do the exact same effect. That's too far. Yeah, I think I was right with 10. We can do the same effect that we were doing with the drop shadow. So we're going to also make it a green drop shadow. We'll bring up the brightness or opacity, and then we'll blur it out, and we'll see what that looks like. All of a sudden, we have a light. There you go. What's cool is that you can now animate this if you really wanted to. Maybe I can animate this on the platform side when you load it up. All right, there's two really cool things that I wanted to get to here. The first one is I wanted to get to an image, a specific image inside of my canvas because I know we said like no images, but I wanted there to be at least one image here. And I'm gonna make it the clear logo. And the reason why I think that this will work, and I was really inspired by the whole Pip-Boy being there. The real problem with the clear logo, right, is that we don't have control over what the user's clear logos look like. So I can go here and I can create a clear logo, or tell it to display a clear logo. And this is what it's going to look like. It's not exactly what I want. Like, it's glowing yellow. But there's clearly that would not be displayed on this screen. So what could I do about it? And I decided I can do this. You can actually give it a color tint. So first I'll give it the yellow that I need it to have. We'll bring down the color tint so that we can actually see the image. We will grayscale the image. So now it sort of has the yellow that I wanted it to have. And then there's one final problem which you can't see with that logo. So let me go to one where you can kind of see the issue. None of these look great, does it? And none of these appear to be actual clear logos. They appear to be just dumps of the boxes. Okay, so we'll this one is fine. So far so good. Last step, take the clear logo, and you can see like there's a box around it. I don't want the box around it. I want it to look like it's transparent. So you take the opacity and you mark it as the current image. So it takes the current image and applies an opacity mask over it, and boom, all of a sudden, every single clear logo that gets thrown at it, no matter what it looks like, won't have a color, will look like it's part of this whole dot matrix scheme that I have going here. And it has this whole yellow glow that's happening because it's being applied by its canvas parent. And that solves that problem. Let's give it a little animation, shall we? Let's say immediately the scale, width, and height. We're going to set this to 0. Oh, not -1, 0. So it should disappear. And then during, or let's say once selected, we're going to make this look really, really old school. So scale width, we're going to say at 1 second, bring it in at 20%. And at 2 seconds, from its current width, put it in at 40. We'll just keep going here. 60 at 3 seconds. At 5 seconds, put it to 80. And then at 6 seconds, put it to 100. Oh, it was already 100. Okay. Now we got to do the same thing, but for the height. So at 1 second, we'll make it 20. Two seconds, we'll make it 40. Oh, we've got it here. So 2 seconds, we'll make it 40. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I messed this one up. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure it's saved. All right, perfect. So 1, 2, 3. We'll make it 60. Make sure it saves. Make it 80. We've got this one, 2, 3, 4. And the last one. It's 5 seconds and we'll make it 100. Oops. All right, so what does this all look like? This will just be a basic, if it does it. There it is. Here it comes. A jarring zoom in of the logo. That takes a slow amount of, just slow enough that makes it feel like the system's trying to catch up to itself. Now we do need to have it reset. So every time during selection, we want it to reset its width and its height back down to 0. All right, so other than that, let's add some of the metadata. So we will need, let's start with one text. Put it inside of our canvas. We might want a frame. Let's do a frame as well. So for this frame, what we can do is, you can see sort of the black background on this frame. So we're going to also make this yellow. We are going to make the sides and the top have some thickness. And we'll place this sort of here. Maybe something like that. And now we're going to take this text and we're going to give it the name of the platform. So game platform. What do we got? Something like that. Give it our yellow. And let's grab the actual yellow color that I want. Okay. There we go. We're going to say, hey, stick yourself right there in the middle. But of course we've got a problem there. Like I want it to be here, but I don't want the line of the frame to be over top of it or to mesh into it. So one way around that you can do is you can use any one of these parent items. Let's use a frame just as an example. And we'll stick it just here above there. We're going to make the background completely black. Oh, you can kind of see that there's going to be an issue here. That's okay. And you're going to put the platform name inside of it. Actually, before I do that, I made the mistake. Let's reposition it where I need it to go. Actually, I don't need to position it at all. I would just auto size the text, and you can see that it's probably giving off the glare that I don't want it to give off. So I'm going to end up just removing this from there and then moving it back to where I need it to be. And this will probably be my one element that I'll have to apply the effect onto. So I can just make a copy of the canvas and then, apply the effect to the platform name by going paste properties, paste effects. There you go. And I've got a little more control over this now, so I could there we go, very slight. Okay, so now at this point I can control how much black that I want it to see. So I'll go into the platform name and I'll put maybe a margin of 10 on either side. And there you go. So now it looks like it's positioned in the middle of that frame, and we'll just display the name of the platform in a nice spot. Let's try to add a few more pieces of metadata. Let's do the same thing. But in this case, we're going to remove this one and use the release date. Oh, gotta delete because only one item inside of a frame at a time. Remember that limitation. And we'll auto size everything and make sure that it takes on the properties that we need it to take on. So the yellow color, the font, and the font size. The font size is 30. The font is the perfect VGA font. And the color is the one that I have copied onto my clipboard. There it is. And we'll put the year there. And now I can copy and paste the effect. There we go. And position this where I need it to be. So I'll use the guides to make sure that I'm aligning it. There it is. And now I'll move it down here to this side. And also give it the margin on either side of the font or the text. Okay, so now that I did that, I'm going to have to move it in, aren't I? I almost don't need that much of a margin on this side. That's funny. All right, so we've got the name of the platform, the name of the or the release date. We probably want a few more pieces of metadata in there. So let's see if we can find a spot for them. Now, if we were looking at our reference image, if I can remember where we placed it, here it is. They have these little grooves that I could use on the top, or I can place it on the bottom. So because I placed the items on the top here, I'll probably use another thing on the bottom here to round out the metadata that I need. To do that, I'll probably need to siphon this off a tiny bit. Something like that. Let's create another frame based off of this one. And to keep it track, I'll do frame top and I'll do frame bottom. And I can simply change this border thickness to the bottom part of it. So I know it's the exact size that I need it to be, and I just now need to position it in the right location. We can do that with the smart guides. Eventually they're going to pop up. Or not. So another way I can do this is to just take the layout of this one, paste it all over top of it, and then we're just going to drag it down. I think that's a pretty good spot. Might even make this one a little bit shorter. Let's give it some difference. All right, let's start placing some text. And since we already have the text that we need here, all we have to do is just place it exactly where we want it to be and change the metadata value. Should be that simple. All right, there. So we got it in the spot we need it to be. And we're just going to say, hey, frame platform name, change this to, and we'll just match what we did with the other theme. So game developer on this side. There you go. We are going to need a brand new doc here. Actually, 2 docs. If we want to do what we did before. So copy, we're going to paste this doc in its place. So 2 docs in top of each other, and the reason is because we want to align the doc. The inside doc is going to be just auto size to its contents. We want to make sure that everything inside of its contents is aligned to the right. So that's how we do it there. And now let's bring in the frame that we want. So I'll make a copy of this frame, paste it in here. Already looking pretty good. Let's make this a bit smaller, and then we will align this where we need it to be. Perfect. And I think this one, I can make this 5 on this side. I can almost make this nothing. Look at that. To be safe, I'll just make it 5. So we'll need 2 different things on this side. What did we add to the other theme? I think it was the release year. We don't need that. So in this case, we could have genre and one other piece of information. Let's go with genre. See how that looks. Pretty nice. Go. And the last one we will do oh, we don't even need this because we're already inside of frames. So let's delete that one. So this one's the game genre. And what's the last piece of information that we might want? Maybe the play. Maybe the either play mode or max games. That's a good question. What's the difference between all these numbered genres or numbered play modes or numbered regions? What it is, I mean, you can see there's one that just has genre and then all these names. There's a lot of games that have multiple genres. So if you just wanted it to be to display every single genre, then the real string you would click this one. This one just has one genre, so you can't see it, but it will separate each genre by a semicolon. So, and that string might end up being really long, right? You don't know how long that'll be. If there's 4 genres in a game, it could take up a lot of space. So what I tend to do is I just want like the first, maybe the second genre, but nothing more than that. And so you can separate them by adding multiple elements and setting them to genre 1, genre 2, and it's just going to pull the first genre and the second genre and third genre. And then you can place those wherever you want, or you can take those genre names and match it to an image if you want. That's the difference between using the ones with the numbers versus not. And you'll see each one has an option not to if you just want to display a giant string. All right, this last one will actually need a dock. Now that I deleted the dock that I needed, we'll put this inside of here. We'll put this one inside of there. No longer needing this one. The dock itself will need a background. Make that black. Okay, we're back where we started. But in this case, we can change this to max player metadata, which should just be a number of how many players this game could run. Should be 1. King's Quest is a single player adventure game, so let's see if I'm correct. There it is, number 1. I'll make 2 copies of this again. One will be the text, and this one will be the letter S again. Okay, let's remove this margin, reduce this margin. We'll change this to the constant value of player. And then this one here, we remove the margins. Five is fine. We also need a margin on this side, on the, let's say 10. That should be fine. And this should be switched to a constant value of S. There you go, players. But we don't want it to say one players. We want to say one player. So in this case, a visibility condition should help us out with that. So if the max players value is 1, go away. Or if it's nothing. Actually, now that I think about that, it should really just be the first one. And the max data metadata value, if there is nothing there, it should just say, actually, should say unknown. That's a big word though. Maybe it should just say nothing. Well, I was actually right. So collapse this if maximum players, if the whole value is just 0. Oh, sorry, if it has no value, so nothing's filled in. And that should be also applied to this one. So just nothing will show up. Ah. I should apply that to the whole doc, to be honest. There we go. That's true, yeah, and I believe I showed that off. So your question was, I should show how you can copy an entire grid or entire stack or doc from one theme to another, or from one view to another. I did show that off in a previous stream, but let's do that. Let's see what you can do. If you just wanted an entire doc, so if I wanted this whole doc of these metadata games and stuff, I could essentially copy that, save this out since I'm basically done. And we can go over to the platform view, which we'll need to build, and paste it right in. We can go into the view and paste it. You could even switch themes, go into a view, and still be able to paste it. So that's what you're referring to. And I can paste that in place, and it'll just show up right there where I need it to be. You can paste entire views from one theme to another, and I showed that a little bit earlier. So here, this text games view, I can right click right here, copy, and then paste it over the text filters view, since I need most of those elements anyway. There you go. And again, that still works if you switch themes and then paste it over top any view that you want. And you're right, it saves so much time. And what's great about this, and something I've been thinking about doing, is creating maybe some effects inside of a specific view or multiple views, and provide that to anybody to use so that they could then copy and paste certain elements from that view and paste it directly into their theme. That's definitely something I've been thinking of doing. All right, so let's fix this up. We're basically almost done. So instead of, actually, there should be a clear logo here, shouldn't there? Platform clear logo. It's essentially just, we'll have the exact same effect as I did over there, same animation. Look at all that time that I saved. We can change the platform name to I mean, this is the category. And in here, the metadata value is title. Down at the bottom, I believe it already, this is good. These ones, I don't need two there, I don't believe. I don't need genre. So we'll delete that one. And this one, the condition here should be the total games count. So if the total games count value is 1, get rid of that. We'll change this text to total games. And then we'll change this. Let's rename it as well. And there's some elements that I wouldn't mind doing that for, just, you know, for myself to have in a theme somewhere that I can copy and paste. As an example would be a group of, you could have like a group of cart images. So you know how certain cart images are, you know, bigger than others. You know, you want to have a Game Boy cart to look tiny, and then you want to have a Nintendo cart to look larger. So how do you do that in the same image? Well, I kind of developed a method that's pretty performant, but at the same time allows you to display a cart in the correct size. You know, I don't have to redo that every single time I create a theme, so maybe I'll have it in a view that I can then within like a canvas or something, and then copy and paste it from one theme to another very easily. So let's switch this one to total games metadata. So we'll switch the metadata to total games count. There you go. Let's just go up here. 5, 0. Oops. Ah, okay. That's fine. I added an S here. That looks better. And other than that, okay, there's one more thing that I forgot to do. So this is the final piece of the puzzle that I think will end up making this theme, you know, to the next level sort of thing. And that's every time that this games view loads, what I can do is create a new canvas. I'm going to copy the same position or same layout. I'll copy the same effect. In fact, I might want it to be in its own group called loading. And I'm going to show you how you can create an overlay, so a loading screen of this game. And we'll make it look really cool, at least. So let's do it in a, oh, and we already have a canvas here. Actually, let's put it in a grid. We'll fill the parent there. And the grid is going to be completely black. We're going to put some text in there. Actually, just to save some time, let's take some text that already exists. And we'll place this right in the center. I think it's already in the center, isn't it? I think we're okay. Let's make it larger. Let's center the text if it gets bigger or smaller. We're going to call this loading. Talking about the loading thing earlier. Let's make this fairly large, I would say. There you go. Oops. What's going on with this? May be able to not need this grid. Let's make sure. All right, cool. There's my align that I needed. Perfect. And we're just going to give this a slight animation where the opacity will start off at 0. And at 1 second, we will make it go to 100%. And then at 2 seconds, we'll make it go back to 0. All right, so 0. Oh, I should put that down to 0. Make sure it did. 100%. 0. Gotta make sure it's actually taking it. Okay. Then I'm going to make it repeat. There you go. Constant loading beep. And then here immediately what I can say is the opacity, make it 100%, but starting at 3 seconds, we're going to start slowly bringing this down. 3.5. We'll go down to 70. Actually, we'll go down to 60. So let's start this at 3.5, bring it up to 4. Then at 4.5 to 40. To 20. Finally 0. I'm just going to double check because I know how finicky this can be. 20, 0. Now we have sort of like a loading screen. That's right. Yeah, the opacity would be a way to animate it, and I was sort of alluding to that with by creating individual dots, you can control each one using opacity in any kind of animation way you want. That'll take some, messing around with, but you're right. Yeah. To make this a little cleaner, instead of repeating the loading, and I should probably change the name of this, loading. Oops. Instead of repeating that, I should make it run for a specific amount of time. So 2, 3. Opacity would be the opacity would be 100. And then probably 4 is all I need. So the opacity would be 0. So after 4 seconds, just make it not appear again. There. You don't see it sort of flashing in the back when it's really, really faded out. So now we've got a little loading screen. It loads in. Then the graphics. Let's check it out quickly. You could really have fun with this. You could place lots of objects on the desk depending on the era or the system that you're using. You have keyboards, different controllers if you want. You can really have fun. You can change the objects based off of the year of the game that you're displaying. Do something like that to be sort of era appropriate. Or you could do like between 1990 to 1995, put these objects on the desk between 1995 and this. You know, you can kind of have fun with a theme like this. Really kind of go crazy. Those are just some ideas flowing through my head. But before the stream ends, let's take a look at the theme. And as this loads, I will provide all these files. Once again, I will provide even the PSD file for the background if anybody wants to use that to add their own little things to it. So what was it called? The dot matrix. Let's see what it looks like in practice. All right, so let's look at platform categories. Let's see this. Okay, so you can see that console logo that we're all familiar with is looking nice and yellow. Let's go into computers. Let's jump into MS-DOS. There's our loading screen. There it comes. Nice and perfectly smooth to the era. Beneath a Steel Sky, which was a great game if anybody likes adventure games. And there you go. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with this. You can have music playing if you want. You can even have game-specific music playing if you wanted to do that. Look at that. All the logos are looking pretty good. All right, so that's the theme. I mean, let's jump into the, so there's the play game details view. You can go out, keep going, switch over to ScumVM. It does the little loading animation again and jumps in, and I can play King's Quest V or Mixed Up Fairy Tales if I want. So that's 2 different DOS themes, plus a little rundown of the startup theme. I hope I'll have all the files available hopefully by Monday-ish. I usually try to get them out. Check the link below if it's past Monday, and it probably should be there, or go onto the forums. But thank you everybody for joining me. If you have any questions, and leave a comment below or send me a message over on the community forums, and I'd be happy to help. Until next week, hopefully have a great weekend. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody.